Welcome back to Gray Squadron Gaming, where we're joined with a couple of Wills. We have Will Squared from Atomic Mass Game. I will let them each introduce themselves as always.
Oh, I'm Will Shick. I'm the creative direct. No, I would always say creative director. I always get my time. I feel like that's why you make me do this every time because I
It's slightly
never get it
amusing.
right. Yeah, yeah,
It's just
yeah.
part of the
The
joke
V.
now.
Yeah, I'm the VP of Creative Development and Strategy for Atomic Mass Games.
Yeah. I was like, did he get it right? He did.
Does it matter at this point?
He don't. No. I am Will Pagani, the development director at Atomic Mass Games.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys both, as always, for coming on. You guys had a little announcement not that long ago. Just showed off a couple things here and there about some
Eh,
of the games and
small
stuff.
one. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, we'll just jump right in. And we're going to ask some questions about all three game systems. But first, probably our biggest questions we want to know is from you two. What was your favorite thing to show off at this mini strat? What was the favorite thing that you guys have been hiding? Like, look, it's real.
Mm, tough one. So for Legion, my pick is the Mace Windu reveal because that was real fun to do. Obviously a character that folks have been asking about forever,
Yeah.
and we had
Yeah,
a cheeky way to kind of do it with the artwork, and then to roll into the fact that it's not just Mace, it's him and like many members of the Jedi Council.
that's really
So
cool.
hopefully I don't get to see the chat when I'm doing that. So I was just in my mind, I was imagining, the crazy meme where all the guys are going crazy because somebody just got like super burned. That
Yeah.
was my hope. I was hoping that people were doing something like that and just being very excited. For Shatterpoint, obviously being able to announce the new sequel trilogy as the next era was, yeah, that's a big thing.
That
That is
is.
Um,
exciting.
and for Crisis Protocol, I think my favorite part wasn't necessarily a new reveal, but getting to drop the Sentinels trailer
It looks.
was very fun. And just, I mean, all of our trailers typically give me chills, despite the fact that I watch them 50 times to provide notes. I love seeing the miniatures and the tabletop like come to life like that. It's something that we've seen throughout the industry from other people a lot. We used to do it fairly frequently when we were a smaller studio, and then we kind of got away from it, and we've made a really big push to get back to it because I think that it's just a really cool way to showcase the games and hype people up about stuff. And so it's been really rewarding now that we're kind of back into it, and there will be more trailer videos at Adepticon. So
Ooh.
yeah.
Well, that's exciting.
How about you, Pagani?
Hmm. I mean, Crisis Protocol is easy. It's Onslaught. I've been saying that every time I get asked
Oh my
because
God.
he
That
is
thing looks
incredible. The rules
amazing.
are incredible. He just looks so cool. He's a cool
Yeah.
character. Like, I love it. For Shatterpoint, it's got to be my boy, Kylo Ren. You know,
Right? Yeah.
I love that guy. I'm not going to say anything blasphemous to get you guys blown up in your comments here, but
Oh, there
I
you
know.
go.
that's where we'll go.
Do that, please.
Um, I mean, I think he's cooler than Darth Vader. There you go.
Oh,
Oh,
Fight
that should
me.
get some good comments.
All right. And then for Legion, hmm, I really, I think there's two things that stand out to me as like super cool for the Legion thing. I mean, there's a bunch of things that are super cool, but like stand out above everything else. And to me, it's the WLO5 speeder tank
Hmm.
because that thing it's so fun to like fly around as like a thing. And I don't know, I think it's gonna do a lot of cool stuff in the game. Well, I know it does a lot of cool stuff in the game. I think it's gonna change a lot of things about like how people are playing it and stuff. So I'm really excited for that one. And then I really love the Cassian Andor unit upgrade.
Hmm.
It's so flavorful and like
Yeah.
so juicy and so cool. And I think that really shows off a lot of kind of like where we're going with character upgrades and stuff is getting really exciting and different with that kind of stuff. So those
Yeah.
were my favorite too.
Yeah, we were super excited to see more of those main characters in unit upgrades because like
Mhm.
we've painted so many different things, and you're like, all right, now I can bring more of my cool painted single miniatures into unit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely, right? Like getting those characters on the table, getting them into lists. You don't always have the points or the want for the full 100+ point package that those things can sometimes be. So these little smaller point, bite-sized things can still bring a lot of flavor and a lot of excitement, and they just do cool stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited to get more of those in there and more of those out to you guys.
I was going to ask, spoiler free, you don't have to say who, but I'm assuming we will probably will see more of those type of things in the future for this game system. Is that
Yeah.
fair?
100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we talked a little bit about it when we revealed Ahsoka as kind of the first character upgrade that goes into a unit, right? And we said that more were coming or hinted at it. I don't know if we directly said it, but um, overall, as Pagani mentioned, the ability to do that, to introduce that tech into the game and what it means for players who we've learned a lot about, both what players want out of the game, but also what they want out of that experience. And it was interesting at the start, when we were diving into the game, we were learning it, we were working on stuff, we were kind of getting through the process of bringing it into the AMG like studio house, how it's an army game. Army games typically don't focus on a lot of characters, right? You look at your Warhammer 40,000s, you look at some other like games in the industry, you look across the spectrum. Mass army games are about the units, and there's like a character or two. Now, obviously, that's kind of changed over time, but the spotlight typically isn't on the named character. It's on the army itself, and the named character does something. And I think Legion in first edition obviously really kind of did that in how the army construction worked and how the command hand limited you and how expensive those characters were compared to the points values of everything. Like there was a lot of that tradition there. And when we started really looking at what players wanted out of the game, what the community conversations were, and all this stuff, we kept seeing over and over, they just want more of the characters that they love from Star Wars, which on the one hand made a lot of sense because that's largely how we've all interacted with the galaxy far, far away is by making attachments to these characters. But at the same time, in our game brains was like, well, that doesn't work. Like the game doesn't. That's a very different game, right? It's not that's not a traditional approach to mass tabletop army games. And I think, this is kind of the evolution of us trying to puzzle through that and say, okay, how do we get players what they want in a way that's meaningful to the game, in a way that really amps up the excitement and the theme of the game, and also opens up, some pretty cool avenues for us as designers and developers to now we not only get to see those characters more often, you can take a wider cast of characters. You can do what if Luke Skywalker joined with Cassian Andor, joined with whomever, and at the same time create these character units that also change the evaluation of the unit they're attached to. And there's so many dials and knobs and buttons that we get to pull in turn. If you're an Invader Zim fan, you'll remember why he got kicked out of the Invader Corps, because he just kept commanding that you pull levers and push buttons. I feel sometimes that's what we're doing with the devs in our meetings and stuff. It's just like pull some levers, push those buttons. Like why not, right? Let's just have some fun and see what we can do. So it's a very exciting time. So of course you're going to see more. You might even see a couple in the Jedi Council pack because I'm here to give spoilers, I'm told.
Oh,
I was going to actually ask when we got to. I was going to say I see that there's 4 Jedi in this awesome pack. I was going to say they showed off 4 Jedi. You got Mace, Plo, Kiadi, and Shakti, right?
Mhm.
Yes. We don't know if they're operatives, commanders yet. You guys haven't showed the cards, but I was wondering if maybe you will see some of that Cassian, Callus kind of flavor you put in those too. That'd be pretty cool. So that kind of
Yeah, it would be pretty cool for sure. I mean, if we're gonna make 20,000 Jedi, we probably need a way for you to play 20,000 Jedi, right? So,
Oh man, I'm just
Exactly.
picturing the board state now with all these Jedi running around. That'd be
That's
so
too
cool.
many glow sticks on the field, I think.
I've seen a lot. Well, remember what happened in episode 2, right? A lot of glow sticks turned into a big defeat.
That's
So
true.
It did.
That's very true.
depends how it plays out, I guess. But yeah, yeah. So there's your big spoiler is that there will be a couple of upgrade cards in that council box for some number
Excellent.
of them.
That is super exciting. So one of the interesting questions we got in our Discord was along the same vein as these upgrades into units, is there going to be like a with all the print and play options, will there be any way to put like Gideon Hask or Rook Cast or Echo, like all those named characters that are only unit cards into like an operative or a commander slot with just a print and play?
That is certainly space we could explore. Yes. No promises.
It's
Fair.
just
Yeah,
just a cool question.
I think when it
Yeah.
comes down to entire new units, right? Um, so taking like Gar Saxon as a commander and turning him into an operative, it's certainly possible because it's just a card,
Right.
right? But I think we would be asking question as to like why are we doing that? And if we are, what is influencing that? And if the answer is, well, there's a point in their story where they are doing this, right? Um, Maybe you could argue Gar Saxon as an operative when in the comic run where they go free Maul from prison after he's been captured by Sidious in the events of the Clone War, and this is kind of like there's an origin story for effectively how Maul gets out of prison and where the Crimson Dawn comes from and stuff. And I think it's from 2015, 2016. I'm not sure. I remember reading it though. And so like he leads Rookcast and they go break Maul out of prison. Is the argument there that he's an operative at that point? And if so, we would look at that character, we would look at that run and say, is he fundamentally different? Are there, does he have a different look? Does he use different weapons? Does he do something where we would want to represent that on the miniature?
Mm.
Because there's enough visual distinction, there's enough change that we want to do that, right? It's kind of similar to the very brief discussion about the Han and Chewie Notorious Smugglers character unit that we previewed, right? There's an argument that like players just said they wanted an episode 4 Han in the vest and the pants. That could just be a sculpt that uses the Commander Solo or the General Solo rules. But the reality is that Solo in that look is a very different person. He has different motivations. He has different goals. He even fights kind of differently. You could kind of argue right there. There is a lot of sauce that we can pull out for the game and allow players to make cool choices and to expand the mythology that's represented in the game, all that stuff. And I think that's where that, we talk a lot about theme first development. And this is another one of those, like, if there's a good theme to do it, then let's just make a new miniature. Let's make a new version of that character wholesale. It's a different equation when you're talking about the unit upgrades, though, because I think like that is something where you're just like Cassian Andor, both commander, and now somebody who can go into a unit that feels very thematic and natural for what we see. What were you going to say, Pagani?
Well, I mean, there's also logistical issues, right? There's now art involved. Presumably, if we're going to an operative from an upgrade card or a commander from an upgrade card, there's now command cards and all these other things, and that the scope of that gets much larger, much faster.
Mm.
Whereas when we're making an upgrade card, it's just an upgrade card with some graphic design, and you're on your way, right?
Yeah.
So that starts to affect a lot of other teams and things like that, besides development and graphic design. And so there's logistical elements as well.
Yeah.
To pull back the curtain a tiny bit.
It's always good to see behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Now, you guys showed off a couple cards early in the presentation. It was Thrawn and then Tarkin. And Tarkin has a keyword we haven't seen in a little bit, pull the strings. So I just want to kind of hear like how you guys came for Tarkin pulling the strings and Entourage Vader. Some very cool keywords. He only has 2, but they're really 2 good keywords.
I mean, do you want to talk about this one, Shick?
I can. So that Tarkin, right? Talking about where we are in the timeline, what we're looking at, right? The Tarkin that we see in Legion in this version is very much the Tarkin from Episode 4, who stands on the Death Star, bridge, quote unquote, the command center, and he pulls the strings. He doesn't do the work. He has others to do it for him, and so Andrew Dursum, when he was working on him, he's like, I want this guy to pull the strings. And obviously we wanted to really reflect the fact that which strings does he primarily pull? I mean, Leia tells us as much, right? If the keyword wasn't already made, it would have been holding the leash, right? Because he's the one holding Vader's leash. But instead it was pulling the strings because that was the Legion term that we had. And that really was kind of like the thrust. And the other part to it was, again, talking about like characters and all that. If you want him to pair with Vader, who's already an expensive unit, he probably needs to be kind of a bargain commander. But we also wanted him to do stuff that fit into his thing. So he doesn't get his hands dirty, but through his command cards, the one that you can read and the one that you can't, because we like to save our secrets. We like to keep our secrets like certain gray wizards. He has a really interesting playstyle, and hopefully it evokes the idea or the feeling of Tarkin that we see in New Hope, right? The Tarkin who is using fear and the threat of violence to demoralize people. I think the card that got shown is the one where he's beating the crap out of the Death Star gunner. That's actually drawn from one of the canonical stories from A Certain Point of View. I don't know if it's volume 1 or 2. If you're not aware of what A Certain Point of View is, it's stories told from various characters that we see, like minor characters that we see throughout the Star Wars movies. There's actually one about how the Dianoga got into the trash compactor, which is wild, but we don't have time for it. You can go read it though. Spoiler alert, that Dianoga is force sensitive, which is it's a time.
There you go.
So those anyway,
Now I have to go read that.
one of the stories
They're
in
actually
that
really good.
is when Tarkin gives the order to fire an Alderaan, the guy that he in that art that he's beating the crap out of it chose not to push the button. And so he's like making an example of him as like, you don't hesitate when I give you an order, that kind of thing. So he is getting his hand dirty there. Anyway, that's just so fun. Like, where did that art come from? It actually comes from an event that happens off screen, but is in the Star Wars story. Um, yeah, so that's where Tarkin kind of came from, and the general thrust behind him. I know that some people are pretty excited by what he's got. Some people wish he had a little bit more. I think this leaves the door completely open for a younger Tarkin. Like we see him in the Vader comics, where like, Vader tells him, "Hunt me, and I'm gonna prove myself." And they play this
That's really
really
cool.
deadly cat and mouse game where Tarkin is literally trying to kill Vader and almost succeeds a couple of times, because they play for keeps. That so again, like, like we always like to say, characters that have a or Republic Tarkin, right? We haven't even really discussed that, but we know from the various Clone Wars episodes and stuff that he's a very big player there. So yeah, so this one very specifically like dials into that episode 4 appearance, what he's doing there, all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's very cool. I'm looking forward to just seeing pull the strings back, even though it'll probably be used against me more than I get to use it. But still, it's still very cool to see
You
it
can
back.
start your Empire army
I
whenever
could.
you want.
I know. And then you also showed off some awesome. You gave us the cards for Han and Luke on Tauntauns, some more mounted commanders and operative, which is really cool. And it kind of bled into the probe droid reveal and then these new army boxes. So I was wondering if you could just talk just a brief bit on the army box and what they are, so people who didn't see that announcement.
People who are not out of the country at the time.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh, out of the country?
Yeah,
Wow.
I was in the Dominican Republic. I'm on the
Nice.
beach.
All right. Well, just for you because you were gone. Um, so the army boxes, those who were around for the Battle Force boxes that we did in the first edition, like Echo Base, Blizzard Force, the Droid Invasion, and the 501st, it would kind of be familiar with the concept. But effectively, what we wanted to do is we wanted to, looking at all of the new stuff that we're making and everything else, we wanted to provide players an opportunity to kind of dive in. If you choose to be an early adopter and you're like, I want to be all in on this echo based stuff, the new hard plastic vets, the new hard plastic tauntauns, these kinds of things, we wanted a way for players to kind of like have a launch box and say, I know I want to go all in. Here's a great way to get 600 points, a 600-point army that's focused around this concept. Some of them will be battle forces, some of them might just be collections of the new stuff, so to be a general army, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be a battle force per se, but I think a lot of them will be, because that's kind of like the sub theme you're going into, and you can dive into that. And because you're jumping in like head first, you're going to get a little bit of a discount, right? Like bundling products like that allows us to provide a bit of value, additional value to players, which I think is really great for a lot of reasons, right? And then on top of that, we really wanted to provide kind of, I don't want to say an incentive, but like a gamer achievement, if you will, that you were there when this thing happened, right? You were an early adopter. I think it's important to recognize that players who support you so fully have a little bit of gamer bling to say, I was there, I did this. And that's where the idea of the special edition miniatures came from. And so, those first two, there's a Leia, a Commander Leia. It's the exact same Leia that's already exists in the game, but she's in her Hoth gear.
Right?
So if you get that box, now when you play Echo Base, you have your Commander Leia who looks like right out of the movies. She's in her appropriate gear and all of that. And then of course you have Vader, who's always Vader, but he's got a cooler pose. And the internet
Deadman.
the internet folks really caught on very quickly that Dallas Kemp and the engineers chose the Fear and Dead Men pose. Um, and those are things that, they don't affect game balance. They don't affect players who might join the game 3 years from now. They are just cool little moments in history that if you were there and you decided to dive in on one or two of the boxes or whatever, you now have this thing that's a really unique thing in your collection. And at the end of the day, we're hobbyists, but we're also collectors. And so that collection part is really cool. And that doesn't, necessarily say that these will never appear ever again anywhere, but the whole point is to keep them very special, to keep them limited. And so you shouldn't just expect like 3 months later, they're suddenly going to be readily available, right? Our goal is to really recognize people who are there and are giving us the full support and are excited about stuff, and to have them get something a little special, just like the convention, exclusive Vader and Obi-Wan that came out before we took over the stewardship of the games and those kinds of things. So that's the end of it. It is important to note they're not starters, and that's why they're called army boxes. So just to iterate something that we talked about in the stream, like these don't have dice, they don't have movement tools, they don't have a battle deck. They just have the components you need to play the miniatures in those. So it is really just a bundle of the products that exist. So if you are new to the game and you're like, I just want to start with Echo Base, you totally can do that, but you will have to get those materials from like the Essentials pack and the Battle Deck pack, or print them out from Print and Play, depending on what you need, right? So that obviously is something that's important. I don't want players to be like, oh, they're new starters. They are, in that they give you a 600-point army that you can like play out of the box, but they don't give you the components that you'll need to play. So they are more targeted at veterans and existing players, but they are a great starting point for new players who don't like the starters and want to start at one of these points as well.
I mean, I feel like even if you're just starting with regular starter, you buy the starter and then you buy an army box, and now you
Oh
got
yeah,
10 points.
now you got
You're good to
yeah,
go.
yeah, for sure, absolutely. And I think that's, if you're jumping into the game at that point, that's absolutely a great way to go. The army boxes are limited, so they're not going to stay in print, and the reason behind that is because they're supposed to be kind of a celebration or a launch product for whatever they're like bundling together, and B, we don't want to put a ton of expensive boxes, right? Expensive, they're not going to break the bank, but they are higher priced MSRP value because there's a lot of stuff in them. And we don't want to put all that strain on retailers to be like, I have to stock, 20 different over $100 boxes. Like that's a lot for them to deal with. And so this allows us to rotate those out really, really freely, and to ensure that there's always some fresh stuff on the shelf, and that there's exciting little army boxes around big tentpole releases and all that stuff. So.
And it sounds like you guys chose the Hoth one because of, like you mentioned, there's not just the new sculpts for the vets and snows and such, but also the Tauntauns and Probe Droids. So the whole theme was Hoth. Yeah, okay, that's why.
Yep. Yeah. Like it just kind of made sense to us to look at it and say, well, we already have this kind of thematic wave of the Hoth, miniatures coming into hard plastic, and we have some new stuff around them as well with the Probe Droids and everything. So why don't we just kind of make those the first two, because it's timely and it's exciting, and we've seen a lot of player demand for the old ones that are really no longer in print. Like most of those have been snatched up, and so let's do a reissue for the second edition. It felt kind of nice and had a bit of poetry to it, which I'm told is a big thing in Star Wars. It rhymes or something. I've never heard them rhyme in Star Wars, but there's a lot of things on the internet that tell me that's true.
The
Always
internet's never
believe the
lied.
internet. Yeah, it's never lied.
To be fair, if you don't know what I'm referencing, it's a Dave Filoni quote where he talks about the parallels in Star Wars storytelling throughout the different things, and that it's like poetry, it rhymes, which is a George Lucas statement as well. It's a thing.
No,
There's a lot of memes about it.
he's like, trust me, guys, trust me.
Nobody's
No,
arguing with you, Will.
No, I don't. I feel like I'm being judged, and I don't like it.
This is a safe space.
It's never a safe space.
With the Taunts, the number one thing I've seen pop on there, so I just want to get your guys' kind of design philosophy here. Han Solo has charge. Luke has relentless. A lot of people are saying Han Solo is supposed to be the gunslinger. Why does he have charge and Luke have relentless? So just curious, from like design philosophy, would that come into, and how did you guys kind of themey do that thematically?
Yeah, so the idea here, right, is if you want Han that has a pistol that he's going to be shooting very, very well, that already exists, right? And this is a much more sort of brash, aggressive Han who's going out to find his friend who is missing and that kind of stuff. So he's going to really get up there and be aggressive. Is kind of the idea that we played off for this. So I'm sure you have noticed he's not as good with his blaster pistol as the other version of Han is. And that is an intentional choice because we wanted a different play style out of this Han.
I mean, it's hard to ride a Tauntaun and shoot a gun.
Absolutely. That Tauntaun probably flips out when you shoot that blaster.
It's possible.
They're flammable, y'all.
I think the big thing is that you don't, our goal wasn't to take Han Solo and put him on a Tauntaun, right? Our goal is to create an interesting and different choice that allows you to play Han with a different set of abilities. And so we can do that by emphasizing or focusing on different aspects. as Pagani pointed out, right? The fun of this Han Solo is that you have the gunslinger. I'm going to kind of like stay at range and shoot you, and you're not going to get to me. This Han is the one who says, "I'll see you in hell," right? He doesn't care about the odds. He doesn't care about the danger. He throws himself wholly into the fight, and kind of playing with those ideas that are still characterful but different. Now you really have a choice. It's not I'm going to take Han but on a mount, right? Or
Mhm.
Han not on a mount. It's, do you want the ranged commander version of Han, or do you want the very aggressive, more melee focused operative Han? The other thing that I'll say is, like, remember that these characters do have command cards, and command cards can have a huge impact on the overall like suite of abilities that characters can have. So I think most people have brought that up as like, we don't have the full picture yet. You certainly don't. With Luke Skywalker, right? We had to look at, okay, we have a Commander Luke, we have a Jedi Luke. What does this Luke want to be? And we chose to really emphasize the commander, like he is leading the rebellion, right? So he's a lot more supporty. He does have the lightsaber, but he's not quite proficient with it. This is still him before he's gone to Dagobah and done the training. He's still kind of more reliant on his blaster. But at the end of the day, the goal really was is that he, and the reason he has Relentless, to answer the initial question, is that his play pattern is supposed to be he hangs out kind of in the back line, runs to where his troops need the support, and then shoots along the way. He has the lightsaber, but if you're running him directly into melee combat like he's Jedi Knight Luke, you've kind of missed the thrust of what the character is meant and designed to do, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and it was also very fun to kind of play on those perceptions that we knew players would have with, oh, well, I want to charge Luke directly into combat, and Han should hang out in the back and like plink people. And through testing, we said, what if we flipped it, right? What if we flipped that experience? And it became very interesting. And we saw a lot of positive feedback on it. And now all of a sudden, these characters that didn't really seem like they were living in a weird place where it was like, yeah, they're neat, but the other versions do the same thing,
Hmm.
to, oh, this is a dramatically different and interesting choice that I now get to make. Like when the playtester said, I'm not sure which of these characters I would want to take, and that decision would largely be based on what I'm trying to do with my army, you've kind of nailed it, right? Like that's what we're looking for every time.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Now with you also showed off no cards were shown. Yeah, I'm correct on that. I'm just making sure I'm getting my timeline right. But you showed
You
off a
should have
game.
said, you missed your chance. If you had been like,
I know.
you showed off the cards for this, we might not have remembered that we did.
I'll save it for a future question today. Just forget I said that. But you showed the Separatist box in kind of like the vein of the Heroes of the Republic and the Leaders of the 501st. So we now know that's where the new Dooku sculpt's coming in, and the you got Saj in there and Grievous new sculpts in there. But you also have Savage, and then Trench is the new one. So that was really cool to see him. Um, obviously we don't have a card yet, but I'm assuming Trench will be more of a tactical kind of player. What was some inspiration to bring Trench into the game? Because besides him being cool and iconic and a giant spider dude.
Right. Spider Dude, for sure. No, so Trench and Tog from the Empire box as well are both sort of, and I mean Tarkin to some extent as well, are explorations in what does a commander that I'm not gonna say can't, but doesn't really fight, right? Because Trench can fight and stuff, and these people, but like Tog is like the commander of spreadsheets and stuff in the lore and things. So what do those look like, and what can we do with those? And those three specifically, I think, sort of show a new direction of like what can be done with that design space and stuff. So bringing him in, bringing Trench in, I think it's just really cool, and it really gives a very unique and different play style to the Separatists than it currently exists. So he was an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, it was also very fun with Trench to explore the idea of a non-droid tactical commander, right? Because we've seen Kraken, we've seen Kalani, we've seen the super tactical droids in first edition, we've seen the T series, we've seen a lot of how the droids approach, you know, tactical warfare and supporting their armies. We were really kind of enamored with the idea of the fact that there are non-droids that do the same. And Trench, I mean, he's this awesome spider guy that everyone
Yeah,
remembers
he's so
despite
cool.
only showing up a couple of times. He kind of gave us the opportunity to do that. And for folks who, for the Django folks out there, who are mad or confused as to why Django's not in there. I will just throw it out to the masses that Django was not a leader nor an official member of the Separatist Alliance. He was a bounty hunter who got paid for a job, so he never really drank the full Kool-Aid.
He was a blood donor. That's about
Yeah,
it.
so like so he didn't make sense here, right? He didn't make sense within the aggregate of what is going on in that box and what we're trying to do for that. He absolutely will find his place. I have no doubt. We got to set up that Mace versus Django showdown so
I was
everyone
gonna
can
say,
show what happens when
whose head is Mace going to cut off for this game? You
who
know?
is it? Yeah, I know.
A lot of people's probably.
Um,
Yeah, for sure.
so we haven't forgotten about him at all, but this was not the spot for him. We definitely wanted to focus wholly on the Separatists and ensure that we were bringing a lot of cool things to their commander slot and their operative slot as well.
Yeah, we're excited for that.
I'm really looking forward to that Dooku pose. I really like
Yeah,
that, by
I
the
really
way.
like that one too.
I believe he actually has two different build options. So there's the one that's shown where he's like doing that, and then there's one where the saber's not in front of his face. So
Yeah.
you
We
can
already have
choose.
that one though. We like the cool new one with it right in front.
True. Well, this one's slightly different as well.
He's
You know,
challenging. He's challenging you to a duel. It's
yeah,
really cool.
he's very proper. You know, he's a
Hey,
count after all.
right. I mean, Count Chocula can't be the only one.
Man,
Sorry, guys.
Well, this would be a Dallas tangent immediately about cereal brands. So
it's true.
keep going
Guess
with
we'll
that
have,
one.
we'll have to make sure we mention that next time we have Dallas on the channel.
Yep.
So we did see you guys just dropped the new Galactic Battlefield terrain set. What's the inspiration behind giving us all that interesting stuff in one box?
The big reason for doing that is that we hope and I think this hope is proven true from what we've seen, at least anecdotally, is that a bunch of new players would jump into Legion with the new starters and the new edition. And, you have to assume that some of those players don't have terrain. They might be brand new to miniatures games. Ideally new stores that don't have Legion communities picked up the game due to the hype, and now they're starting Legion communities. And what you want to make sure is that if you're going to play Star Wars battles on a tabletop, players need some efficient and like cost-effective way to be able to set the stage, right? These games are immersive in their visual, and you can play, you can do the thing that I think we all did in the 90s, which is like put some books under some green felt and maybe throw out some Christmas diorama terrain that you got, some of that scenic stuff that you do for the top of the piano or on top of the entertainment center or whatever.
Fish tanks.
Fish tanks, yeah, your fish tank stuff.
Aquarium
I already
terrain.
have fish tank terrain in my house.
So you can do any of that, right? And none of that's wrong, but at the same time, there's something about playing a game of Star Wars on a table that feels like Star Wars, that feels like you're in the galaxy. And so that's the point. Like, we don't expect that the vast majority of veteran players are going to need that box, are going to have any desire for that box. It's not, not to, this is going to sound bad, but it's not for you, right? We understand that, right?
He's trying to tell us that.
It might be if you're excited by it or you want to supplement the terrain that you have. I mean, obviously it's a great value for what's in that box, but the primary point behind it is that it's for new players. It's for players who have come to the game and say, "Oh, I really want to make sure that my Star Wars tabletop looks like a Star Wars tabletop." And we have all this great terrain that we've done in the past for the various Star Wars games. It all has been designed to work for Legion as well as Shatterpoint. So this gives them a great way to be like, I'm going to pick up a starter. I really love this game. I can't wait to like enhance my table. I'm going to grab this terrain box, or I'm a brand new store. I want to build up a couple of tables for my community. I can grab a few of these boxes, and now I can set up those tables in a very cost-effective manner, right? So that's the strategy and the idea behind it. And if you're a player who's been playing for, the whole time it's been around since 2018, and you're like, I just want more Star Wars terrain. Heck yeah, you're my kind of person. I totally ordered 2 of those as well. Like I want all of the Star Wars terrain so I can kit bash it. Dallas himself ordered like 4. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, no, there's some cool things in there. I think there's 4 little Mouser droids too for your bases if you want to extra deck them out. That's what I'm going to be using.
I mean, I'm still waiting on Gonk Racing to come out for everybody.
Gonk Racing.
Well, you can use the mouse droids and then have mouse racing, right?
Ooh, mouse
Mini
racing.
scale.
It'd be a little less chaotic since they have wheels, but
It's just a giant dirty carpet, and you got to clean. Who's gonna
Yeah.
clean the fastest?
You can,
Oh,
they ferry communication. So like honestly, doing a like a Robo Rally style mouse or droid deliver the messages to the various the various Imperials, and then when you screw up, they get the wrong orders and something bad. Like I could see this. I can see this in my head.
He's got a game cooking right now,
I
guys.
know.
here we go.
2028 Adepticon Pagani, we're doing it.
It's like he makes games
Okay.
or something.
This is
Um,
how, I mean, this conversation very similar to this is exactly how Conk Racing
It's
started.
true.
So,
I could see that.
I'll just save us a spot in the mouse racing game for
There you go. We'll
next
give you
year.
an early access preview before the show
Perfect.
because it originated here. Started here first.
I like it. You showed off some other future kind of troops coming out too. We got Mud Troopers and the Wet Work Stormtroopers, I think it is, right? What's
Wet
it?
weather.
yeah.
Wet Weather. So Wet Work.
Wet Works is it's a little too
Completely different
aggressive
things.
for stormtroopers.
Wet
Yeah.
Weather Stormtroopers.
Yeah. These guys don't slit your throat. They just stay dry.
Yeah, that's fair. Just curious, talk a little
Look
bit
at that
about
art.
what you can say about those two units and like what you're excited about, what they're going to do differently, or how you envision them, or whatever you want to talk about them. But I know a lot of Empire players, and even me, that there's some of my favorite looking designs.
He's been wanting Mud Troopers since like
That probably will get me to make the
Yeah,
Imperial Army,
since
to be
Solo.
honest.
All right, well, mission accomplished then. Pagani, you wanna talk about these two units?
Yeah, I can talk about them a little bit. I mean, Mud Troopers are kind of they are Imperial Army, right? Like they are the not elite stormtroopers, right? Like stormtroopers, despite a lot of the bad rap that they get, are elite. They are the scary troopers. They are the best of the best. That's why everyone's scared of them in the setting and stuff. And sure, we got a lot of memes and jokes about them now, but they are very serious combatants in the canon. And these guys are just some guys that have been conscripted and thrown into mud, right? So they are that. They are sort of the budget core unit that Empire has never had, right? So they're going to give a very different flavor from Stormtroopers. They're going to get a very different feel. They've got some pretty nifty keywords and stuff that are new. And we did announce the Battle Force, right?
We said We
It
said
exists.
that
Yes,
the
so they
224
are
was
kind of the
gonna exist.
backbone of the new of one of the new Battle
you did
Forces.
now.
They're coming. Yeah, that's kind of the like.
I'm
By
pretty sure
accident, just do
I'm
it.
pretty
You
sure
just
I
said
said
it.
it during
You didn't say anything about it
99%.
besides they will fit in it.
Look, I told you if you just don't tell us that we didn't reveal the cards,
Oh yeah, man.
you got a 50-50 shot of us just being like, oh yeah, this is really cool. They have this rule and that rule.
Yeah.
If we remember what's on the card, to be honest, like half the time we'd be
True.
like, oh yeah, what did the card say? You'd be like, we're at
They
an
had words on
impasse.
it. And then they're obviously meant to fight in like not ideal situations, right? They're the ones kind of thrown into the trenches that are full of smoke, like you see in Solo, and mud and disorganized and not ideal conditions, right? It's kind of what they're used for, where the stormtroopers are like, I'm not going in there. But then the wet weather stormtroopers are the stormtroopers that are like, all right, I'll go. So they're sort of like a pseudo elite foil to the mud troopers, right? Whereas the mud troopers are much less training, worse equipment, all that kind of stuff. The wet weather stormtroopers are very much well equipped. They are here to fight in that kind of condition. They have the proper equipment. They're well supported by the Empire. They are doing all of these things. And they are different from normal stormtroopers in that way, that they have more gear, more equipment, more that kind of stuff.
And I think like when you're looking at, kind of units and things like that, as we move forward with the game, as there are more and more core units introduced because they fit within that spectrum and stuff. One of the big things that battle forces give us the power to do is to carve out critical or like very interesting niches for these things to exist, right? So the wet weather stormtroopers, and they are specialized, they have specialized gear, they have specialized training, right? So you could say, oh, they might be a special forces or they might be a support, but we already have so many of these. Like, why do they need to exist? They kind of do the same thing as X, Y, or Z. And the reality is that because, we can really create these very unique thematic groupings with battle forces, we now have, even if as a player you're like, the wet weathers, they kind of pale in comparison in a generalist Empire army to X, Y, or Z, ranged troopers or scouts or whatever. they can find a really strong place in that 224th Minban battle force where they are very, very central to supporting the bulk of the force, which is, mud troopers, which might also include some benefits to units that may not also have strong positions within the overall generalized army, right? Like, let's say a grav tank, an occupier tank, those kinds of things. And that kind of, I think, subdivision of everything is also very interesting because it allows us to more confidently expand the scope of the game, of each faction, and ensure that everything has a really compelling place, and places where it can shine, where we also give players who just want to play a generalized, I'm going to take the best of whatever's in there, generalized faction approach as well. So yeah, it's very exciting. It's fun to do that stuff, and I think we have a whole lot of good ways to ensure that there's a lot of diversity even within the factions through the battle forces, through these other things as well.
And I think the most important thing about the Wet Weather Stormtroopers is that they have cool capes.
They do.
Capes are very important.
Like, yeah, that's I love
Water
a clean
resistant,
cape.
but not waterproof because the
Yeah.
Empire does that kind of thing.
I like
You know, same. It's a good one. You also showed off one thing I'm more excited for as a Rebel player, the Guerrilla Troopers.
Mm.
And you mentioned they're in the Battle Force too. So just expand upon that a little bit.
The guerrilla troopers were something that we get to do every once in a while, where like with the riot troopers and the sleeper cells, we kind of approach LFL and we say, hey, we're kind of looking at getting a unit that does XYZ, right? With this, we were looking for a more elite rebel unit that had decent armor and that could kind of play as a foil to the common, like what Pagani said about the mud troopers, where they are a complete inverse of what we normally see in their core units. In general, we wanted the guerrilla troopers to kind of be the inverse of what we've seen throughout the entire rebel, units in general. And Dallas Kemp kind of came up with an idea that because he kit bashes all the time, and I think he was throwing together this wild looking stormtrooper that might have gotten shown off in a hobby blog at one point through all the different kits and everything. And we started talking about, oh, it'd be pretty neat if you just swapped that head and now all of a sudden you'd have this rebel that was like in Imperial equipment, and why don't we see more of that? And then the conversation started rolling, and that led to them doing some designs for effectively guerrilla troopers, like these guys who go into the back lines of war-torn zones and they just live off the land and off of stealing, right? They have no connection to the chain of command. The rebel command might not even know they're there. We see a little bit about this in the early days of the Rebel Alliance, like with Endor, right? Or Andor, not Endor, not E.
And/or
uh, where like one of the big struggles that the rebel this young rebel alliance is having is that there's so many rebel cells or rebel activities, but they're not really connected. They're not really working together.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys can represent that, but more likely what they represent is kind of the rebel alliance says we need to go disrupt empire supply lines here. We'll drop you off and then do your best, right? And so
fuck.
and this unit kind of figures it out, and so they get to steal all this imperial equipment, which was a really neat idea. They have a very cool design and a silhouette that we've never really seen before, and we kind of pitched this to Lucasfilm, and we talked through kind of the idea of it and what the story was, and as they always do, they kind of gave us some pointers and discussed it internally, but they're like, yeah, that's totally something that is conceivable and probably happened off screen, so we think it's great. You should move forward with it. And then it kind of got turned over to dev with those parameters and that design concept inside, and we wound up with a very, very neat rebel unit, I think. It's one of my favorites that we've done thus far, just for not only because we got to kind of have a hand in its creation, but also just for how it kind of topsy-turvies the faction on its head a little bit.
I like the sound of it. Some more hardy rebel people is always a good thing for our army because we got a lot of glass cannons in the rebel army, so it's nice to
Sure.
have some of the others. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, for sure. So when we were at AdeptCon, you guys gave us that awesome showcase, and we saw some awesome card packs coming out for stores.
Mhm.
When are we going to see those?
Oh, the OP pack.
the OP packs, like
Beautiful.
the just all
Yeah.
darts and
So the weekly play kits are still in the works.
okay.
We're doing some finalization on the oh my gosh, I lost the turn.
Not foiling.
Collation? The collation. That's what it is. Collation. To ensure that everything's correct with that. We've also gone back and forth a couple of times on some different foiling types to make sure that things are cool. Like overall, this is, we've never really done a CCG style like card product. So we're learning some things along the way, and we're working very closely with the manufacturers for it to ensure that it kind of hits those spots. I think we're looking at late quarter 1, early quarter 2. I'm hopeful that you might get a chance to pull some from the prize wall at Adepticon if you're going to be there for the first time. But we'll see. But yeah, it's still in the works. It's taken a little bit longer than we expected due to some back and forth stuff. But we'd rather get it right than rush it out. So that's kind of what we're doing.
No, always appreciate it.
Yeah,
I'm
always.
excited to see those in person.
Yeah, for sure.
And then kind of going through the timeline of the extravaganza you guys showed, you ended with just a mural of the Rebel Ghost Crew. Just so someone in our Patreon was like, "Does that mean Lothwolf's creature troopers are confirmed?"
It's
And we just
absolutely Lothwolves. You guys are all crazy thinking the ghost.
that's
Crew
literally
is
a
the
question that was asked in our Patreon.
It's actually just an art print of that mural. It'll be out in 2027. I thought it was cool art and wanted people to have access.
It's going to be a piece of terrain. It's just a wall with the picture.
It's a very large
That would be
decal that you can put on the train that you got out of the
It's a
the
decal.
box.
No, I like the ending there. I'm excited to see the Adepticon. I want to see if you guys tease any more on that one. But the other thing you touched on a little bit during and more afterwards were some point adjustments across Legion too. One of the point adjustments was to the Aqua Droids. You gave them a 13-point increase. And then just a little bit of kind of back end of where did you land on that? How did that happen? Just kind of want to hear the behind the scenes a little bit.
Yeah, why did it take so long, Pagani? Answer that. That's what the people want to know.
No,
Why
no.
do you only type with one finger?
There you go.
Chicken pecks.
His number pad was broken at the time.
Yeah, and most importantly, I have to type every document that goes through development. That's why everything takes so long. That's why it's 2 years, right? No, I mean, look, points are hard. Everybody has opinions. There's just a lot to look at and a lot of feedback to go through, a lot of information to collect from all sorts of different things. And that takes time to go through properly and assess and all that kind of stuff. So
You didn't even talk about the testing time too, right? Like,
sure, yeah. I mean, you've got to collate it, get your first draft down, and then you throw it to the testers, and they're like, "Nah, do all this stuff." And you're like, "Okay, well, we'll take some of that, we'll leave some of that, but maybe this is out of scope. I don't know. How much time do we have? What do we got to do?" It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Point updates are not just like 12, right? Like
you don't just throw the dart at the dartboard and that's the number that goes down.
Look, sometimes it does feel like that when things are getting presented to me in development meetings, but then there's always justifications behind it, and they're like, "This is why, this is what's going on, this is the blah 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 blah." So yeah, and are we like 100% sure we're going to get it right every time? Absolutely not. We're never like that. But hopefully every time a point update happens, we get a little closer, right? And I've said it once, I've said it a million times. These things take a lot of time to do, and we do have to pick and choose, right? We don't get to do the whole game every time, especially not that we are in year 6 of Legion, maybe 7.
7.
7?
March 2018, 7 years, sir.
There you go. As we get more units added, these things only take longer, right? There's more things to look at. There's more things to assess. There's more upgrade cards. There's more units. There's more blah, blah, blahs as we add more print and play characters, right? Each of these things requires a look. So we can't just be, and I've seen people online being like, well, why wasn't blank in there? Because we have to triage, right? We have to say, hey, this is what needs to happen. This is what we want to happen. What else can we fit? Right. So we did a lot of stuff in Empire this time because we, as at Adepticon, right? We looked at a lot of things. We heard a lot of feedback there. We did all that kind of stuff. We listened to the podcast. We listened to the community. We do all that kind of thing. We go through Empire and we say, hey, this is what we need to do. We go through the other factions. We say, hey, this is what we need to do. And then if we have time, we then go into the what would we like to do, what can we bring up that isn't necessarily like is a problem, but for a different reason, right?
Mhm.
Um, what can we elevate with these things? Because it's pretty easy to find feedback on what is too good or what is over the curve, right? What is outside of our balance curve. That's very easy. It's very hard to find what is not being played, right? Because you have to infer, you have to go look at lists, you have to see what people are playing, you have to go do all that kind of stuff. And then figuring out why that's not being played is also very difficult. And then go from there, right?
And
So,
another big part to it, right? And we've talked about this a lot, is that we're not interested in solving problems that players might be able to solve themselves.
okay.
So when Octodroids come out and they're very strong, well, most things that come out, if they're on the higher end of the curve, um, wind up having an outsized impact for a while as players learn how to deal with them, how they learn how to adjust. There's always the case that future releases or something that comes out later will be an answer to a question that's being posed, right? And what we don't want to do is basically overcorrect and not allow players to be innovative, not allow players to engage with the game, to outthink their opponents, to solve the meta themselves, because healthy metas are player driven. They shouldn't be developer driven, right? We're
Mhm.
only there. Our job should be to address the things that are like breaking stuff that are pushing outside the curve. But other than that, really the joy of these games is being a player and getting to go in and innovate and think about things and find the counter meta and make a new meta and watch those things healthily evolve and grow. So it's going to be very rare unless something is catastrophic. Pagani used the word triage, right? Unless there's something that is absolutely game breaking, that absolutely breaks the curve on the high end or the low end, we're more than likely going to take our time to analyze, to see how the community adapts, to understand the core of the issue, to discuss internally what we want to do about that, and then to put that stuff through testing. Because what you don't want to do is say, I think when we started the process, the original discussion was raise aqua droids by 18 and the heavy by 10. And see, and like that's a lot, but at the time, that was the initial approach. Obviously, through testing and iteration, we realized that that was too extreme, so we brought it down, right? I mean, I don't think that players, though we all want change to happen quickly, we want to see these fixes happen in the shortest amount of time possible. I think it's important to realize that the alternative is that it is just throwing darts at a wall, and it's going to be way more wrong more times than it will be right if we do our due diligence, if we take our time, if we take a measured approach to these things, because we're not, as many times as we say this, sometimes it feels like the reaction is, oh, this is the last time they'll ever do anything. It's not, right?
I
It's
mean,
it's
you
not
guys
even close.
you guys forgot this point's update to just increase the arcs. You just
It's
didn't do that
true.
this time.
Yeah, we just
I don't
didn't do
know what
that,
happened. I just
right?
missed it.
um
Guess it was a missed opportunity there.
and yeah, so like maybe next time, right? But there's always next time. There's always an opportunity. So the thing is, right, is like it's a journey, it's not really a destination. And balance in this game will never be perfect. It can't be. It's impossible. It's just not how it works because everything is different and unique, right? We're trying to tell a thematic and narrative game that brings characters that are written from a page or shown on a movie into life in a relatively balanced game system. So it's always going to be a moving target. The best we can hope for and what we strive to do is ensure that player skill is always the defining factor, combined with a little bit of luck, combined with good planning and all of this stuff. But everything's going to be a percentage, um, and that's kind of like where it shakes out. And there's that median, and for every time that Empire is kind of at the bottom of the four faction results, there was a time where it was the top and it was the monster, right? These things they'll shift dynamically through adjustments, through new releases, through player innovation, through invention, through all of that stuff. Um, so
We saw it recently. You guys dropped what was in the summer the Imperial March card, and I think that one card did a lot more than people thought it was going to do. Playing against it a lot, I can tell you, that card really, really helps the Empire alone.
for sure, yeah,
So
yeah,
just
and
goes back
so
to your
there's
point. And sometimes a release can help units.
sometimes, right? And I think those can be more interesting than others, but we have a lot of tools at our disposal. It just comes down to, like Pagani said, there's only so many hours in the day, there's only so much time to work on this stuff. We can either make cool new things like Jedi councils and wheel bikes and all of this other like crew of the ghost character units and all of this stuff that's coming, Sorry,
that was
decals. You
just
can
a
make
mural.
Crew of the
Oh,
Ghost
Oh, yeah.
decals,
That's just
not
a
character
decal.
units. That'd be silly. Why would we do that? Everyone wants the decal to put on their terrain. That's what they want, right? I'm sorry, I got lost. I lost the point for a second.
I love when you get lost. It's my favorite
Um,
time in our interviews.
But we obviously we have to dedicate. We're only so many people, right? So we want to focus on new releases, keep the game healthy, and that also impacts how much stuff we can look at, right? Like Pagani said, we can't change the game, nor would we want to every single time an
Yeah.
update comes up, right?
Right.
We're being very measured and targeted in this approach. Some of that means it's a long journey, right? Like no one's arguing that Wookiees are in a great place, but it's not Wookiees time. Wookiees are getting looked at now. Ideally, when we do an update in April, it's not going to be a complete rewrite. It's not going to be a wholesale like revision of what Wookiees are. We will approach it from a points perspective first. We'll look at if that's enough, and then we'll do slight other things if we have to. But it's the fewest number of touches to make things better, right? To push us forward on the journey of making the game and continuing to keep the game in the best healthy state it can be. And that is a process that we're committed to for the life of the game, and we take very seriously, and we do try to get it right the first time, but we know we never will. That's the benefit and the curse of what we do, and it's why Pagani has no hair in his head, because he's a perfectionist in an imperfect job.
I don't agree with that at all.
Hold it all out.
That's not why I have no hair.
It's because he has a very, very Adonis-like head, and he just wants to show the world, much like a co-host on a certain podcast
I
we
feel
go
you,
on all the time.
for sure.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a reason that I'll just keep my hair forever, because it's lumpy and weird and gross. Like, you don't want that, It's like a topographical map of Kansas. Like, nobody wants to see that.
Oh my God.
We can't all have perfect heads. I get that.
Oh,
I know.
no.
I know. You have no idea how blessed you are, to be fair. Both of you.
Both of
Glorious
you.
bastards. I hate it. I hate everything about it.
You losers spending money on shampoo over there.
I know.
Yeah. Plus, we get to use the excuse of like, oh, I can't do that. I have to go wash my hair.
That's
Mhm,
true.
mhm.
So
Takes a lot longer to shave your head.
that is true. Very true.
I think overall, from everything I've seen in the community, the points adjustment have been very well received. The biggest two things I've seen, and you already brought one up, was the Wookiee. So I'm glad you restated it for those who missed when you said you were looking at them. And the
Confirmed.
only
Wookiee's
other
100% change.
yeah, 100%. The other one I see, and I think you guys said you're looking at them too, are the Rebel Commandos. I think those are the only two left I see brought up a lot. We're in all the forums and Reddits and Discords, always chatting with everyone too. So those are the two big ones I see. But I think you hit most of the Empire ones who needed it. Aquas need to come down. I think you guys did a very good job overall, not going too heavy-handed. We've seen in the past, when the game was newer, sometimes they went a little too hard one way or the other, and then the unit went from really good to unplayable, or unplayable to like the best. So it's nice having a little bit of a flow to it.
It's like number one when we're making a change is trying to honor the investment that players have made into these things. It's very easy when you're making something better, right? Like lifting something up, you can't really go wrong. From a player like feeling perspective, right? Like you can absolutely go wrong in a game balance perspective. But when you lift something up, right, it's very non-controversial. When you go in and you have to do something like Aquas where you have to bring them down, when you have to nerf something, you really want to be extremely careful that you're not invalidating people's hard work and purchases, because it's not just that they spent their limited funds to get the miniatures. They also spent time assembling them. They spent time painting them. They're like very excited about these things. So it's a big deal, and it's something that we often, I think that more than anything else keeps us up on the balance changes when we have to do stuff like that. Like, how do we get to that perfect spot? Because it's very important that players feel like they can be secure when they're choosing to engage with their time and hard-earned money into this game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, makes sense. And I told you we were on all the Discords and stuff, always chatting with everyone. And I saw, I think it was today, but my time might be crossed a little bit. You mentioned on a different channel, AMA, I don't remember where I saw it, that there was going to be a 2,000 point kind of Legion thing being shown off at Adepticon.
Yes.
For those who didn't see that,
He's on top of the chick. That was like 2 hours ago.
It was.
I'm on them all, guys.
That was it. That was our
trying to keep up
Wargamer
with everybody.
AMA today.
Okay.
Pagani, you want to talk about what I so rudely spoiled when you were being like kind of
rude.
Well, because you were saying all the right marketing things, and then I just came in like a wrecking ball. I was like, why are we doing this? No one's watching us right now.
Yeah, so there is much like special operations or tours of duty, or skirmish or things like that. There's a new format that we are working on called Full Scale War. And Full Scale War is kind of the Grand Army evolution from previous Legion. I don't think we're ready to go into too many details, but it is played at I believe, a minimum of 2,000 points on the table. You can go higher.
Mm.
There are things in place for that, and it uses the core of Legion, but it is not just a 2,000 point game of Legion, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So there are scenarios and all sorts of other things that are going on during that kind of stuff. So
New mechanical rules and ways in which you construct the army, the way in which activations work, all that stuff.
yep, and of course missions and advantages and all that kind of stuff are
Yes.
all very, very, very different.
I think one of the big things that we wanted to do is we wanted to, not only do we want to see bigger games of Legion, because we know that there are players out there that are very excited about that.
And they're so
But we
cool.
want, well, they are very cool. Having seen several of them in the office currently with fully painted armies from R2 devs, they are very cool. But we also want that play experience to be smooth, streamlined, enjoyable, done in an appropriate amount of time. Like, we don't want the game to take 6 hours, right? We want players to be able to come in and play a large scale game and have that experience that feels like it's a fully baked idea that functions on its own, that is a perfectly viable choice, just like all the other game formats that we've done, and can be played in a reasonable amount of time for the scale of game that it is.
I mean,
And
just to fully spoiler here on
mm,
that, I think we're in mostly in like the 3 to 4 hour range
yep.
for a
So
2,000 point game.
So,
There's gonna be some
about a
late nights.
50% increase over Legion, currently, but a pretty good place to be. And we're hoping that maybe we can refine that down. And an important way that we're going to do that, because this is what really keyed the announcement at the AMA, is that we are going to be running, if you're going to join us at Adepticon, for the 2026 year, we're going to have an event where you can jump into Full Scale War and you can playtest, and you'll be able to do a playtest session of the game with our lead developer Andrew Dursum. He's going to be there to explain how the system works. He's going to walk players through stuff, answer questions as it comes up, and he's going to be taking notes and taking feedback at the end of it. So if you ever wanted to, we've done this a couple times before, for different things, but if you ever
First time
wanted
for
to be,
Legion, I think.
yep, first time for Legion. Yeah, we did it for Galactic Legends for Shatterpoint last year. Um, and it worked out great. It was a really wonderful way to kind of get community feedback. It's a very cool, like, Adepticon convention kind of like thing. And so if you're curious about it and you want to be in on the very early testing for it, be some of the first people outside the studio who will be working on this. It's going to be a great time. Just figure out how to pack that 2,000 point army. There'll be a whole write up on it. It will be a ticketed event, so you'll be able to pre-register for it. So you won't have to bring the army not knowing if you're in or not. All of that stuff. So if you're going to Adepticon, just watch for the event postings and the listings and all that stuff. It'll all be there.
We'll
and
be
you
signing
can
up for
play
sure.
with us. There you go. All right, and you can report back to everyone how it was.
We don't do that on this channel.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Perfect. Well, I hate to wrap, but we're coming up to our end time here. So anything else, Wills, you guys want to say, spoil, talk about that I didn't cover with you guys today?
Oh, I got 13 more minutes. Ask a question. Do it.
Ooh, 13 more minutes. Okay, I have a couple more questions for you too.
Good.
Some of these, feel free if you can't answer. These are Patreon questions. I always filter them out, the ones I don't think you guys can answer. But is there a possibility we're going to see any other build your own, specifically this one, more of like a mercenary or bounty hunter type build your own for those factions that don't have a super tech, Jedi, Rebel, Imperial?
Absolutely. I think we've definitely proven that that is something that the community has really gravitated towards, really enjoys. That combined with, Tours of Duty being so well received and a big point of excitement among the community. I think we'd be fools not to. Will it be, super quickly? Probably not, right? There's definitely going to be a little bit of a gap as we work on that stuff and move forward with it. But yeah, I think more customizables, some kind of bounty hunter, something, who knows, like, more options for the various factions. It's a very, like, we loved playing in that space.
It's really
And
fun.
it
It is
really
really
just came
fun.
down to, like, well, how are people going to feel about it? And we assumed people would be very positive about it, but you never know. And so you kind of want to, again, we talked about how character focused Star Wars is. So it was a little bit of a gamble. It was a little bit of a risk. It could have gone the other way. And so therefore, like now that we have kind of, I will say the community's blessing in some ways, I think that's a space that we will be very excited to explore more of as we go forward.
He's been asking for a build your own Sith kind of apprentice person, kind of like the heel to the Jedi, if you
Yeah.
will. So if you
Yeah.
guys need any ideas, this one.
I might have painted a Jedi to look like a
You
Sith.
pretty much did.
That's fair. That's fair.
Another question we had was you guys recently, when you showed off the terrain, you showed off the Jin Cassian K2 box. There's some questions, confusions around that. To me, the Jin looks like the old model, but I'll let you guys, if you guys want to talk about that at all, if the Jin is the new or old plastic, etc.
The Jin is soft plastic. If So when we announced or we showed the kind of the repack and talked about the repack roadmap at Adepticon, one of the things, which is still true, and this is kind of indicative of why the Jin is not in hard plastic yet, is that our goal is to replace all of the soft plastic, all the PVC with high impact polystyrene or hard plastic, as it's commonly referred to. But that process obviously takes a lot of effort. It's similar to balance updates, right? Like we only have so much manufacturing, we only have so much engineering, we only have so much sculpting, right? So it is, it's not going to be done in a year. It's going to be done in 2.5 years, right? We have to measure this stuff out so that we're also giving people new cool things to play with and to have in the game. And so a lot of the repacks, in order to get them out to players who are new, again, this kind of goes back to the terrain discussion, right? We know that there are a lot of new players that are coming to the game. They may not have access to things that veteran players have gotten from the first edition of the game. It's really important to us that we try to ensure that they do have all of the things from the back catalog, all the things that a veteran player might have access to, as quickly as we can possibly get it to them. And what that means is that, some things like the Rebel veterans and the snowtroopers are going to be in hard plastic, so you're not going to see them in soft plastic. But things like Jin, because Cassian and K2 were already done, we just decided to combine those older SKUs, and we'll get to her hopefully eventually, but it's going to be somewhere down the road, right? And that's just kind of the harsh reality of the whole business process and how we have to be careful to balance our bandwidth and our capabilities to ensure that players have access to things, as soon as we can get them, so that new players feel like they can fully engage and buy into the system, but also that, we're not taxing ourselves in ways that mean that veteran players don't see anything new for 9 months, 10 months, 12 months, because nobody wants to live that life, right?
Right.
Like, if Ministrav was just like, here are all these units that you already have, but they're going to be in hard plastic, I don't feel like everyone would be quite as excited as they were.
Probably not.
So that's just kind of where it shakes out, and we'll always be very clear in all of the descriptions about where, if it's a repack, as I think people have kind of saw and what sparked the conversation is that it was like, these characters are from these old packs. That, obviously means that they didn't change. There's no new sculpts for them. We try to work with our distributing partner and publishing partner at Asmodee to be very specific about that wording, because we don't want a situation where a player thinks that it's different and then discovers once they open the box that it's not.
Yeah.
So always read the descriptions. It will always be as clear as we can possibly make it with our partners. We don't control the postings or anything, right? That's all done through the distribution and the specific web source. But we do provide that language. We're often checking those things to ensure that they're accurate, those types of things. But the product description will guide you, and it will hopefully be very clear as to, is it new, is it old? Things like the Shore Troopers, they're going to be reissued in soft plastic first because it's just not quite their time. Fleet Troopers are getting reissued, but they are going to be the original sculpts as well. The only difference in those boxes is that we are including enough miniatures in them to make the super squads, right? So if you have the capability to go to a 10 trooper squad, you're not getting more of that. There's a price adjustment, of course, with that, but all that good stuff. But yeah, so that's what I can say on that.
No,
Let's ask a more exciting question now. Give us one that's a happy answer, not a boring business answer.
Yeah, no, I have two more. One is about the new battle forces you guys kind of shadow dropped on us, which was really cool. Like, here you go, you can play with them now, which I love when you guys do that, by the way. You get the 212 and what's the stormtrooper one called, guys? Help me out here.
You're so close. Stormtrooper
Battalion.
Battalion. There you go.
Very,
I
It
know
was very
very
close.
complicated name.
it's just not as exciting as you would expect, right? Like
Yeah, I thought there was
like
something else to it, but that's my bad.
it's very straightforward, right?
Yeah. The question was more around when you're making these battle forces, and you obviously have less troopers to pick from, so you guys have a little bit more play with how you're constructing it and such. Why do some, or what's the design? Some have command cards, some don't, and like how do you guys pick and choose when to implement that as a tool for that battle force?
I think it really depends on the battle force itself, right? Like if we don't necessarily feel like the battle force needs unique command cards, then it doesn't get them. Or if like that battle force has very specific tactics that it uses or something like that, that's when we see those kind of things, right? There are also some boring business things in there, like does art exist for these cards? Do we need to make art? All that kind of stuff. But that's back into the boring business stuff that Shick doesn't want. But I think it's really about if we make it and it doesn't have command cards, and then we play it and we're like, this is great, then it doesn't need command cards. And then if it does, it does. And thematic elements, gameplay elements, all of those things weigh in on that kind of stuff. So
No, yeah, that makes sense.
maybe that's a boring answer, but
I mean,
that,
No,
it's good.
the battle forces themselves aren't boring.
Wait. I think there's a song that I won't sing so that the algorithm doesn't penalize you for it, but I believe it goes, "You don't always get what you want, but you do always get what you need." And that
there
is
you
very
go.
much the Battle Force
Yes.
philosophy from Dev. I think that Pagani
Yeah,
just
and that comes for command cards. That comes for like the alternate unit cards, right? Like you've got the EXD cards and the stormtroopers with the two heavy weapons. I'm blanking on the name right now. It's been a long
heavy
day.
response unit.
There you go.
HRU. He's
You've
blanking
got those units that
because
exist in
he
those
sees red
because
every time that name gets brought up by the playtesters. They're like, "But what if this had the HRU unit?" And he's like, "Ah."
yeah, they did want that in Stormtrooper Battalion. No.
You know.
But yes. So like all of those things are, does it need it?
Mhm.
Because we like making stuff, right? But we did talk about how much time do we have to make things? How much effort has to go into this kind of stuff? Does it need it? Is that worth the effort? Or would we rather put that toward full scale war? Or would we rather put that toward the point update, right? And as much as we enjoy our jobs, I would love for Andrew Durham to work his scheduled 40 hours a week and not a bunch of overtime. And I would love to work my scheduled 40 and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because yeah, sometimes you just get excited and you work after hours, and then I get to go, no, don't do that.
That is a big deal, honestly. So no, thank you guys. That was a fun
Like
drop.
that.
The one thing I didn't touch on, we can back up a little bit, was you showed off also more mounted people with the Bark speeders. You have Anakin and Obi on a Bark, and then you mentioned briefly about a generic general on the Bark. Is that just going to be like just like a like a clone trooper commander? It's just a generic person on the Bark type thing, Jedi, or is it like a build your own? I'm
No.
not confused, but some other people were asking, so just to clarify there.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, not a build your own like with a bunch of customization. It's just like a unit card that is the Jedi General on a Bark Speeder, for folks who want to use it that way. If they, if you want more Jedis on Bark Speeders beyond Anakin and Obi-Wan, or you don't like Anakin because he betrays everyone, and you're like, I'll never play with that guy. Now you can make a general Jedi like that is your own Jedi.
Jedi Bob. All right.
Yeah, but there's no like I always forget the name of the doctrines. There's no doctrines or anything like that for that character.
Okay, that's what I thought. Cool. And then the last thing I had on my list of questions was at Adepticon and such. You showed a roadmap with dates of when like
Mhm.
re-releases and stuff are coming out, and there was none released on this one. So they were wondering, will we see that at Adepticon, or is that something you'll release between then, or is that just the one-time thing? People were just curious of an updated version of that.
It's very possible that it will get updated due to the impact of all the things that have happened this year between a lot of global shipping issues, tariffs, and other things that have just been kind of outside of our control. The reliability of like our confidence in several of those dates, like forward-looking dates especially, have been shifting. And so what we kind of decided to do was that instead of giving people expectations that we were unconvinced we might be able to hit, we decided to hold back on that And then as we more confirm and become more solid on our confidence on what Asmodee, our partners at Asmodee from publishing and distribution are telling us, we will likely go back to that and update those things. But we just weren't at a point with everything going on and kind of all the information that we were getting back from Asmodee itself. Because as we've talked about before, right, we are the way in which the Asmodee system works with its studios is like we're kind of like the band and they're the record label. We make the music, but they press and distribute the records. So we hand over the music, but they get the records into the store. They make sure the records are made, all of that stuff. So we work very closely with them on the production process, but we don't have direct oversight or control over like the shipping, the logistics, the distribution, like everyone hitting there right. That is all managed by the greater Asmodee system, which is a wonderful thing for us because it lets us focus on what we do best, which is making the games, making the products, and then communicating with the community based on the information we're getting from them. And so, that when things get really hectic and kind of crazy, this happened during the peak of the pandemic as well, like when container prices really shot up and all of this stuff. We directly interface with them a lot about, okay, what are you hearing? They tell us, then we kind of translate that to the community and let people know as we can. And this time it was just like, well, anything we told, anything we put down, we just weren't comfortable enough to believe that it wasn't going to change within a month, within a week or whatever. And so we decided to just keep it as like, here are the exciting things that are coming. Generally, the roadmaps from Adepticon are accurate to within about 60 days at the moment. But it also really depends on your region within the world as well.
Sure.
And so I love, but don't envy the folks at Asmodee who deal with global shipping and logistics, because I feel like those poor souls have not had an easy time since 2020, and it's like 2025 now, but they just keep at it. They're indomitable in a way that actually hits the definition of it, because they every day they just go in and it's like, well, what can you actually control? Like, not much, but we're gonna do our best.
Yeah, definitely. That's great. I think you think you went through all the questions we had that we were going to ask you today.
Perfect.
Then I always end with the same thing. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about, say, or do you want to spoil a name of a upgrade card out of the card pack?
You
For
already
fun?
got your spoilers,
Yep, tell me what it
sir.
does. I just know if you want to do a funny name that
Oh,
wouldn't tell us what it did. Like, no one would know what clairvoyance did before you introduced the card, right? Like, it just
that's true. That's true. I don't have any off the top of my head though. They're name wise.
that's the reason.
Like I could give you a
you give him the Han command card name.
oh, see you in hell? Sure.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go.
That's a good command card name right there.
We even said it earlier, but I don't think we said it was
We did, but we didn't
card.
say it was a command card.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yes,
I mean, that's perfect.
Makes
he
sense.
does have a command card that is see you in hell.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
There you
looking
go.
forward to them. Well,
Good
perfect.
call, Pagani. That's why we bring you.
That's why you bring you.
Well,
Thanks, Pagani. Thanks, Shick. We always appreciate you guys
Absolutely.
coming on the channel, answering the questions.
always a
I'm
great
happy
time.
to have you guys on probably either before Adepticon or for sure after all those
For
news.
sure.
So thank you so much.
Well, maybe on the
Everyone-
floor. We'll just do it live at the floor, right? Right
Yeah,
after
we'll do that
We did it
again.
last time, absolutely.
That worked out really
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
Perfect.
right. Well,
Awesome.
thanks so much, guys. We really
thanks
appreciate
for
all the
coming
work
on.
you do with the communities and all that stuff. And I've seen a lot of people give glowing recommendations for all the new players coming in to watch your learn to play stuff. So
Well, thank you.
Appreciate it. Like, it's a huge boon.
Yeah, no, we love
Thanks.
doing it. So
Yeah.
thanks for everyone watching.
Thank you.
Perfect. Have a good night, everyone.